Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and Iman here from the Block Runner, MetaZone, Rovi, and MScribe. I thought it would be good to talk about Bitmap again.
I think that's a good idea, dude. I think it's always a good day to talk about some bitmaps. But, once a week is enough. Is that coming from me?
Yeah, that's your laptop.
Okay,
dude.
so if you don't know, bitmaps make a lot of noise these days, at least in our bitmaps. And we're going to show you why here soon.
Right.
But first, let's get like an overall, like get our bearings on like what's happening in the ecosystem.
Yeah, well, the owner count is going up still, 27,500.
So we are like far and beyond the sandbox, right? Like they're like so far in the rearview mirror at this point, as far as like landowner count.
Correct.
We're talking multi-billion-dollar metaverse ecosystems of the past on Ethereum. So yeah, a lot of potential here. How do we deliver value to all these existing land owners is the question, right?
Yeah, I just noticed the range here. This is a negative 208,000 range to 47 millionth inscription. That's interesting.
Those are cursed, aren't they?
Yeah.
Those wacky Casey, dude.
Yeah.
And his fucking cursed lands.
Right.
Which should be Dunsky's, right? Once the Jubilee update happens. No more cursed inscriptions.
Well, there's no more cursed inscriptions going forward.
Yeah.
Everything remains cursed.
That's right.
In the past, yeah.
So who knows what that means speculatively if you have cursed inscriptions.
Yeah.
They're going to be like artifacts in their own right? Potentially.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's a relic of the past of like when we had,
Yeah, and it's a good like term too, cursed.
It is. It's pretty cool.
It's marketable.
That's right. But yeah, that's not what we're talking about. Cursed bitmaps, even though I guess obviously they exist out there.
Yeah, and it doesn't really say the market cap here, but I think the floor price is going up, and there's been a couple listings so far with like SATs, and so there's a lot of action happening in the ordinal space.
Listings with SATs?
Yeah, on Binance.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
So
I mean,
there's a lot of action happening.
Overall, ordinals is in a good space. This Bitcoin ecosystem continues to flourish. I think there's plenty of indication of that. Yeah, now that Ordi and SATs is both above $1 billion market cap. And now we had the introduction of even more fungible tokens that are generating more interest.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just a nonstop action packed. And then of course the virality has spread to every single other chain, including bitmaps, which we're going to talk about here pretty soon.
Yeah, and price is only just like one measuring stick. I think the true value of Bitmap is like who's building on it, like what they're doing, the traction around that. So
correct.
Let's take a look at who else we got here. So I guess we'll leave this till the end there, but inscribe.space always coming up with updates. Bitmap Land website, they have it ready. They have a map and explorer, links to marketplaces, connect wallet to view your bitmaps.
Yeah, if you can click on the link, it's
yeah,
pretty much gives you like an idea of where they're headed. Because if you remember inscribe.space, I mean, probably one of the more active developers in the space. Pretty much they had like a good track record for like a solid 2-month span where every single day there was an update to their builder tool.
Yeah, so they have a map here. They have play, build, avatars, and then the founder's pass.
Yeah, a lot of stuff on the horizon. So this is kind of like what we want to reiterate or reemphasize where we think we are as far as like the positioning of the ecosystem maturity. It's like in this, you can either call it like the stack phase or the OS discovery phase or whatever.
Correct. Operating system. It's kind of like, okay, we all have bitmaps, the distribution of this, digital land layer experiment. It's a wild success. There's a lot of value in this ecosystem. So it's like, how do we build on top of that? Yeah,
right?
The operating system kind of concept really came from like our experience with Decentraland back in the day. Yeah. And I think we were early in like, attributing the concept of an operating system to a virtual world.
Yeah, I think you had to be in an ecosystem like Decentraland to, I think, come to that conclusion because the things that operating systems enable, it's functionality, right?
Yeah, it's programming.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which in none of the other like Web3 metaverses enabled that, right? Yeah. Enabled developers who have
programmability of a virtual environment.
Correct. Yeah. Most other static metaverses, you just come in, deploy some GLBs and stuff and such. Yeah. Which we labeled as that's the static metaverse, right? We want a functional metaverse where you can come in and build apps.
Yeah.
And that's what operating systems enable. So Decentraland got that right.
They did.
And so, yeah, these ecosystem developers building on top of Bitmap, we feel need to kind of like continue down that path. Otherwise, you know, the engagement and the retention is just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to come in and enter a diorama space, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can come in, it's going to look cool for a little bit.
But you won't come back.
You won't come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is ultimately the issue. And the operating system is true to its word. It's an ability to program anything that you want into the space. And that's the true allure with like a Web3 metaverse, is that you can pretty much bring in anything that you can think of, that you can program. And it's vastly different than like a Web 2 counterpart, where it's very rigid.
Yeah.
And they'll give you builder tools, right? But you
Correct.
won't be able to bring in DeFi into
Yeah.
a Web 2 space.
Yeah.
Right. Just because they have limitations, but they also want to control their own environment as well.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't want to like a free reign and, you know, potentially have to deal with like, you know, content that is not friendly to most people. Right.
Correct.
Yeah. So, but in Web3 space, you do have to deal with that. Okay, let's take a look. So that was inscribe.space. Let's take a look at Recursive Verse here. New update, bitmap.game, support OKX wallet and BitGet wallet, room password, bundle domain, trending bitmaps, support HTML and bitmaps, switch free mic, or invite only, new UI for listing assets. So this has been interesting kind of like development, kind of watching all this, because they like the kind of like the 2D experience, which is very robust. I mean, you can create pretty much anything that you can think of.
Yeah.
Right. Our entire existence on the internet has been 2D, right?
Correct.
So this isn't too much of a stretch to see having a metaverse experience in 2D.
Yeah, it's definitely proliferating into some sort of like remember that game? Damn it, man! I wish I remembered the name of it. It was like Penguin Clubhouse or something like that.
Oh yeah.
It's starting to manifest into something similar to that, right? Which is those are very good. They attract
tons of people.
Yeah, very large user bases, right? Because they're very social. It clicks all the right registration points of like what makes it an engaging experience and retains my interest.
Right.
Right. I get to build identity within these spaces and such, and accrue assets, make friends, all these cool things, right? And experience.
Yeah.
I mean, this is cool. There's like a little waifus dancing on the dance floor and such. Like this is hilarious, dude. Let's zoom in on that.
You were real close, man. It's Club Penguin.
Club Penguin. What did I say? Penguin Club?
Penguin Clubhouse.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I
close.
was close, dude. I knew it had something to do with penguins, but there it is. I see a drum set. That could be an interactive, like maybe like, you know, walk up to it, click on it.
Yeah.
And then some new UI panel comes up where it's like, doo-doo.
Yeah.
You know, it's like now you're jamming. You're a performer, you know? And then there's like a little, what's that, piano over there? Same thing.
Piano, yeah.
So everything in the metaverse space could be interactive and functional.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the hard part, right? Is how do you come up with that framework to allow content to become interactive and, you know?
Yeah, there's
Application
complexities when introducing like the kind of like a user experience where the context of that experience is like an avatar. Right. Because typically in a user interface, you are like the user, right? And in this case,
like just like looking at your panel.
Yeah, you're looking at the experience, really.
Right. Yeah.
Versus the experiences around you.
Right.
And then you're interacting with different functionalities.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we're in that discovery. I call this the OS discovery phase, 'cause I don't think we've like found like the optimal UI UX for this what you're describing as like a new immersive like web experience.
Yeah,
right?
This
was a many year process to figure out for like the basic internet and you know, Windows operating systems and such.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you know what? We need a start menu.
Yeah.
You know, we need a taskbar somewhere up here. You know, these decisions are now looking back, they seem
they
minor.
Yeah. You think it's obvious that, you know, this is like the way that it's supposed to be, but it wasn't back in the day.
Yeah, it was a struggle to figure out and discover like the actual needs of the user of this new technology. So I feel like that's where we are, especially in bitmaps, because I mean, it's literally a blank canvas. So
we
have to figure it out without much reference. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So recursive verse, they're always like updating stuff, and they're always like cooking. So shout out to those guys. I'm so Chris, another guy who cooks.
Yeah.
He's got let's see. I think there is 40 more that he's selling for Bitmap Valley. So he's like it's close to kind of running out.
The instances.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bitmap Valley has an interesting concept where, again, working on a stack offering where people who have ownership of these, ownership of these parcels within these Bitmap valleys, right? They have access to customizing their own space, right?
Yes.
So obviously that comes with a lot of like technical requirement. To customize anything implies tooling.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's like the whole idea is like you got to think of your bitmap as a collection, right? It's not obvious that it's a collection, but it is. And within that collection are a bunch of parcels.
I see.
And
saying,
as if you think of the bitmap as a collection, then you're going to want people to own your parcels, right? Because that's how you cultivate a community. And then you have a ton of contributors into your environment. And then you don't necessarily have to build your entire space on your own.
Yeah.
Right. It's basically like a community effort to a certain extent.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that either because it's very costly for one. I mean, look at the other side. They've raised hundreds of millions of dollars.
Or look at GTA 6. That was a badass trailer, right?
Yeah.
But it takes hundreds of millions of dollars to do all that.
In many, many years. So it'd be a lot better to have like an organic, community contribution, similar to like Roblox, put out the tool sets and the frameworks and such. And then the devs will come and, to contribute.
Yeah.
As long as like, there's a monetization pathway, right? So this is the economics of the metaverse, which I mean, it's very hard to figure out, but
oh, absolutely.
It's not impossible.
Yeah. So Chris is definitely going ham at this, and he's like I think he was like the first one to start building out a 3D environment for bitmaps.
Yeah.
And so he's got a tool here to kind of like get on board and everything, but it's important to highlight these things because it's going to be important to get devs involved into building into bitmaps.
Yeah. Well,
just because we don't know what exactly is going to be the most immersive, stickiest experience, right? And we need to enable all developers and creators to take a shot and figure out, what's going to stick.
This is going to be up to the invisible hand again to basically dictate and to broadcast to the world like what it is you guys want, right?
Yeah.
Where does demand in this market, right? So once all these, technical stacks and these metaverse operating systems complete, are like fully fleshed out products, which are now consumable and installable, deployable on your virtual space, aka bitmaps.
Yeah.
Then we're going to have a clearer picture as far as like, okay, this is what you guys want, because one of these stacks is going to be, basically the winner, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Have majority,
yeah, that's why like in like the computer space, there's basically only 2 operating systems, right? There's 3, but there's Windows, Mac OS, and Linux.
Yeah.
Right.
And in the mobile arena, there's Android, right?
Android and iOS, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So there's been quite the consolidation, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure in the early days there was like more, right?
No, there was a lot. And it's kind of good that it consolidates from like the developer perspective because you don't want to stratify your audience into multiple operating systems.
Yeah.
Right. You want just a few, right? And so far it's consolidated into 2. And it's been pretty successful for developers because there's tools out there where you can build an application that can be deployed in both operating systems.
Correct.
It's not optimized, but you could at least do it.
Yeah, and in the Web 2 metaverse, I guess, arena, we have, Fortnite building their own operating system / game like creator engines and such. And you have Roblox, Minecraft. So these things are happening. It's proliferating, right? Every major tech institutions is coming up with their offering. It's like, this is the stack you need to be leveraging, developer, to create like the most enriching experience, whatever the fuck. And of course, this is going to happen in the Web3 space as well. And Bitmap's the perfect place to kind of like start all that,
Yeah. So what era, what decade would you like?
I don't know.
Kind of compare the current state of like the metaverse development
I would
with
say
the
like,
internet,
like late 80s, early 90s.
Really?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of early.
It's pretty early, dude. It's very early. Like I said, we're in like discovery and experimentation phase. We don't have like a mass market product yet, I don't think.
Yeah, not only that, we don't even know like the best use case of the metaverse. Like, because remember in the early days of the internet, we'd be spending a lot of time in like chat applications.
We sure did.
And it was just like text and that was it.
Yeah.
And so, but that was like very sticky, right? We'd spend hours on that thing.
We did. And then we realized like we like to customize our little AOL bios and like, you know, put little weird text emojis and such.
Yeah.
This is before like the idea of social identity was a thing.
Yeah.
And I think some very smart people saw that trend is like, you know what, let's expand on this and let people like actually form online identity.
Yeah.
And then, you know, MySpace and Facebook and stuff.
Yeah, you had to
emerged.
learn HTML to like customize that stuff.
Yeah, I remember that, dude. It was very weird.
Yeah.
Interesting days. But
Right.
yeah, so we got a
like,
couple others.
So what experience is the equivalent of like a chat application? Like the first sticky metaverse experience is that going to be?
Oh man.
Which is, I guess, a very challenging question.
Yeah, that's hard to pinpoint. I mean, I would think it's something along the lines of also more like something communication wise, but like a little bit more of like an intimate, I guess.
I showed TJ a video of Corridor Digital. They explained the visuals, the VFX of a sports game.
Yeah.
And you need to watch it because what they did was they have like a lot of cameras around an arena watching the game, and they can recreate the game in 3D in real time. And maybe it's like the sticky experience is just like a social interaction of like a real-time activity happening.
Interesting.
In 3D.
Like in real life, but
virtually.
Digital twinned.
Yeah. And it's like high fidelity is like pretty interesting and accurate too.
Yeah, I think anything that makes communication more, I guess, again, intimate and feel more interpersonal is going to be a killer thing for sure. Right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously, the killer application of the internet is communication. We like to talk to one another.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
No matter where we are. So if we could expand on that and make it like a much more, I don't know, enriching experience. Like no longer are we just talking. Like, look at these Twitter spaces that are happening. We got Elon Musk and like Andrew Tate and Alex Jones. And like Vivek. Like these are like the weirdest like circles you wouldn't imagine actually would come together publicly and talk about, you know, how humanity is fucked.
Yeah.
But that is the killer application of the internet, right? So like that is going to persist in the metaverse space, but we could all as audience members be doing something much more productive other than just like sitting around.
Yeah, just listening.
In like a fucking Twitter room.
Yeah.
We could be, you know, in one of these virtual spaces at the same time.
Yeah,
right?
like for example, in Expectorland, you can throw frisbees at these objects.
Why not? While I'm listening to Elon Musk talk about how we should all have more children.
Yeah.
He's like, you guys need to have more kids. He's like, you know what? That's nice, Elon. Let me throw my frisbee. Yeah. Let me rack up some points while you discuss to me my failure as a man.
Yeah.
My manly duties, you know?
Right. Yeah, so I think that is going to be the activities. Like everybody's going to be like listening to a Twitter space, but you're going to be kind of running around and messing around this 3D environment.
And we're already seeing that. Cursive IO's doing it.
Yeah.
I think that is going to be like the starting point. Like people are just going to get addicted to that, I think, pretty quickly.
Yeah, and what you're looking at here is kind of Iman and I running around in this space. You can imagine that Twitter space where you and I are talking and we're kind of like interacting with different community members here.
Yeah.
And we built this block runner game pretty quickly. Think of it as like the hello world of this virtual space, just to show that you can build like functional content that's pretty much like anything you can think of.
Yeah. Oh, damn it. I suck.
And so we're over here earning NATs.
Are we really?
Yeah, look at the scoreboard, dude.
Oh my god, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Which one am I? I'm probably the one who's not earning anything because I keep failing.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, this is like the first iteration.
Yeah.
But these little squares represent like the bitmaps that we hold. It's just random concoction of like output.
Very nice.
Right. So the orientation. Another thing I wanted to show. Let's see if I can pull it up.
So first of all, where are we, dude?
Oh, yeah, this is our virtual space, dude.
This is our virtual
Oh,
operating system, right?
Yeah. Why, dude? Is that you, TJ?
That is
No.
not TJ.
Oh shit, that's Oscar.
Oh shit.
Well, that's cool.
Corv is here, or maybe it's somebody else is here. But here we go. The social experience is happening live, dude.
Yeah. Let me pull up the text here.
Okay.
But yeah, check this out, dude. So I'm gonna copy and paste this link. And look at this. So I'm gonna click on this green space and paste. And look at that. I just spawned a whole new game. Just like that.
Yeah, so these are examples of applications, right? That we've coined as metaverse enabled tokenized applications. So this is something that's existed in Decentraland for years, right? Because again, Decentraland being one of the first virtual environments that has a usable, functional operating system, right?
That's right.
SDK for developers to create content.
Yeah.
And bring function into that virtual experience. So
yeah, and the big deal here is that you can bring any functional content. Like it doesn't have to be a game. It could be some sort of DeFi farming activity.
Yeah.
You can build logic where people are earning actual fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens.
Yeah.
Bitcoin or anything else, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of like, what we think is going to be like the thing where developers create stuff that have applicability with, actual stuff that we do on the internet.
Yeah.
And then just imagine like these green squares representing the actual parcels, and then all of a sudden you can deploy all kinds of content. So this definitely is still a couple of things that we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe I don't want this thing to cover my entire parcel, right? I need to be able to shrink it or move it, and position it. So
yeah, now you're talking about the UI UX.
Yeah.
Right? This is again part of the software engineering side of things where we have to consider what is the optimal experience as like, I'm a landowner here, dude.
Yeah.
What tools do I need to like, make my ownership experience, my hosting experience that much more robust? And as a result, I've produced, an engaging experience, and I'm bringing traffic to my land.
Yeah, let me pull up a couple of other links I have here.
Okay.
And I'm gonna just drop stuff randomly. It's like, look at that building, just like spawns out of thin air.
Holy shit, this is nice, dude.
Yeah, so we can jump in here.
I literally you just deployed a club.
Yeah,
potentially. Now you're gonna have to fixture this place up a bit because it's pretty
bland, right?
Pretty empty.
Yeah, and I guess the content here can be higher fidelity. So this is just like a quick example of what you can do. And so just imagine like the other stuff that people are going to come up with. And that's the thing is like these tools are important because we can't really make everything for the community, right? So
Negative.
And even if we did, it wouldn't be as good as what the community can come up with.
100%. Yeah.
And we learned that pretty quickly, building in Decentraland.
I definitely like this spot up here. Yeah, we got good view. We could join you up there.
Yeah.
All right, dude. This is it. This is the beginnings to what we think is like the digital economy, dude. User generated content is that's the future to the metaverse. Because no single entity is gonna build out the digital existence layer. It's gonna be
that's how YouTube got huge.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
User generated content, right?
Yeah, you put out the platform for users to make, interesting things. Founders of YouTube didn't know. They probably assumed in the early days there's gonna be a bunch of gamers just uploading their game footage, which it was.
It was that. Yeah.
That's how I found YouTube. It's like I wanted to see the best quick scopers, dude.
Yeah.
360 no scopers. and then eventually it just morphed into like these kids living in mansions. Like
that's right.
like that's all of YouTube now.
Yeah.
Everyone lives in mansions and they're just doing weird things.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that's what YouTube would have turned into? But
yeah, they're just pranking people now.
Right, but it's a fucking $1 trillion industry on the way.
That's right.
Right, is user generated content. Yeah, it's very weird watching like.
Yeah, you made a comment that the kids these days they don't want to be astronauts; they want to be YouTubers now.
Right. Yeah, and it's strange. It's like the kids they want to consume what seems like amateur content and compared to like really well produced content. Like whenever we were kids, like we were watching like AAA.
Yeah. like
programming,
right?
fucking Disney Channel
Yeah.
and PBS and such. And they're like, no, I don't want that. I want like this random family on the internet's kid.
Yeah.
It's like opening toys and such.
Yeah.
Like super low budget productions. Like that's what I want.
Yeah, it's like unedited. It's like
Yeah, it's just so weird.
random. Yeah.
But again, these are the things you can't predict.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just kind of manifest on their own. And
Yeah, it's a free market. That's how things are made, and like that's how you create $1 trillion ecosystems.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for us. I appreciate you guys for watching. Let us know if you have any questions or you missed anything, especially Bitmap related. We like seeing all the development happening in the space.
Yep.
And appreciate you guys, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.